ancestors speak. Mm, Marie Laveau is who we're going to be talking about tonight. And I want to start out because some of you may be new to this, may be your very first time listening in. Um, I already know that there are so many of you out there that there are so many of you guys out there that are new listening for the very first time. And being able to come in, I want to kind of give you some background, but it's always good to do your research. We encourage that. And for you to do some research and be able to see, gather your own expression of Marie Laveau. So let's talk about her. Let's start from the beginning. So, Marie Laveau, lots of mysteries surround her story. You may be familiar with what they say about her at this particular time, that she was the queen of voodoo or voodoo, as you know, in the city of New Orleans in Louisiana, and known as the queen of voodoo, the priestess of voodoo, as what we've come to know it here. And this story goes all the way back to the 1700s. Is where sort of a lot of this energy came in. When there were slaves being brought, there were individuals coming from different islands and from different places, different continents, from Africa, from all over the world. So we'll start our story sort of somewhat there to give you some background on Marie Laveau. Now, there's a lot of discrepancy about when Marie Laveau was born. And, that was one of the questions I asked her, because some say she was born in the 1800s, and there's other accounts that says that she was born in the 1700s. And so I asked her, Marie, so when actually was your birth? And why the mystery around your birth? And, why is there so many discrepancies out there about your birthday? And for those of you who watch a lot of television or maybe don't, what is it called? American Horror Stories. Angela Bassett played Marie Laveau on that particular series that's there. Many movies have been done, books have been written about her, and all kinds of things. Well, she explained to me that the reason of the discrepancies of her birth was because of a couple of things that was happening. And one of the things was where she was born, because she was born at a time when there was a lot of things happening. There was a major revolution going on in Haiti. And because of this revolution that was happening in Haiti, it really triggered all kinds of hot spots all over the world. And so this is why it's so important that we do be our brothers and sisters keepers about what is happening all over the world, because something that's going on in a country maybe 20, 30,000 miles away from you can also have a effect about what's happening here in your space, in your life. And so we are always looking to signs and symbols around the world that is helping us navigate and guide ourselves as we continue to grow up on planet Earth. So, in one of the ways you can take a look at that is about the butterfly effect theory. How a butterfly flapping its wings here can actually create a tsunami that's going on thousands of miles away. And so to me, what I take from that, other than the scientific theory of the butterfly effect, is the fact that energy and thoughts are real and they do travel. And so the things that we are putting out into the atmosphere is not only impacting our own world in our lives, but it's also contributing to the collective consciousness of every living, breathing thing on the planet. And Marie Laveau understood this at a very early age. And so while the revolution was happening and going on in Haiti, she was in the process of being born. But I want to kind of jump in here a little bit. I'm not going to make it so woo-woo for you guys, but I know you want to know this story. And it's important because she wants her story to be told. And the truth is that she reincarnated back to the planet very fast. In fact, leaving the continent of Haiti and coming back to New Orleans and still continuing to be of service to her people. And so when she was born, shortly after she was born, a year or two after she was born, where her birth records were being kept, the place was set on fire. There were some great fires that happened in New Orleans that burnt down some very historical landmarks. And one of those was a Catholic church. And that particular church is where a lot of her records were held. So that's one of the major things to be able to understand about why there was such this conspiracy about this. The message that she's bringing at this time is really about what she was about in her time. And that was truly service of her people. And so you read all of these books and you hear all these stories about her casting spells on people and manipulating the system, and, you know, how she was really sort of blackmailing people with black magic or with voodoo or voodoo. And that was so far from the truth. The truth of the matter is that Marie Laveau realized that she had the ability that many of us now know in this time that sometimes I think we take for granted. We take for granted about our intuition. We take for granted the fact that we have dreams, and in our dreams we can see things or things are happening to us. We take for granted that we can feel energy, and we use these things in very trivial way. Well, she understood that the magic and the power was with the people in our everyday lives. She was one of the first, I must say, in her time that recognized that there was no separation from the mundane world and the spiritual world, because Marie Laveau brought them both together. In fact, that was one of her main goals, and that's where she thrived. So while the priests in the Catholic Church were helping people prepare for their lives after they left this world, Marie was helping people prepare for their spiritual world while still in this world. So in fact, she was more about helping people live. She came equipped with a lot of skills. One, she believed in being in contact with nature. In fact, she would talk to the plants. She would talk to the trees and the flowers. She would be able to speak to the animals and even the insects. And she would get her answer about what particular herb was good. She told me about a time when she was walking through the courtyard of the Catholic Church where she once stayed. And she remembered walking by a plant, and the plant called her and told her to have a seat. The plant began to speak to her and let her know what medicinal usage it had and how she can begin to use this to help to heal people when they were sick. See, during that particular time, there was a great divide that was happening all across America. And particularly, this was happening right in Louisiana and New Orleans. And so you had some individuals who were African American, who were freed slaves, and some who were still slaves. And then you also had the divide between those who were Creole mixed with French because of the French invasion. You had those who were also mulatto mixed as well. And so there was a lot of separation and a lot of energy going on. And Marie understood this. She understood that the makeup of everything that was going on, that she was a part of that. And she did her very best to connect herself with all of the people, to really begin to show them that they did not have to wait until they died and went to heaven, that they could have a good life here, and that things that went on in their everyday life mattered. She was a spiritual counselor. She's telling me this now. I was a spiritual counselor, very psychic, and was able to see things that were near and see things that were far, and to see them very clear. She was a healer, a powerful healer. She remembers the first time that she was able to heal a woman who was very, very sick. But this woman was a slave. And they were calling around, trying to find a doctor, doing everything that they could to save this woman's life. Marie Laveau came over, put some things on the fire, dropped some herbs in it, went and gathered a chicken, put some of the chicken blood inside of it. She went in the woods and she got some nuts and some berries. She threw them in the pot, mixed them all together, and began to wipe the woman down, and then told her to drink it. Suddenly, this woman was able to rise up, and she was better. There were many cases of these things that were happening, and it was a combination of all kinds of things that was coming to her. By the time she was 25 years old, she was already married. And when her husband was gone, she considered herself to be a widow because she truly mourned the loss of the man she loved. And she decided at that point that she would begin to dedicate herself, no more hiding, that she was going to be who she was. And if people did not accept that, then that was going to be their problem. And that's one of the messages that she sends to all of us today, is that we have to start understanding who we are. And this very, very unhealthy conversation that we are having with ourselves, we have to let that go and stand in our own true light and be who we are without worrying about who accepts it and who doesn't, who likes it and who doesn't, who agrees with it and who doesn't. And at that particular time in Marie's life, even though by some accounts she was still very young, she realized that she would hide no more. And it was time for her to merge her worlds, her spiritual one and what was once called the mundane life, because she understood that it was all one and the same. She loved doing hair. She would often play in her hair. She would play in her sister's hair, her family members' hair, her friends' hair. And so she became a hairstylist. I think that's what y'all like to be called now, a hairstylist. I'd like to think of you as High Priestess myself, because the work that you ladies can do and brothers with hair, that's magic in itself. And so I don't have to tell any hairstylist about the magic that happens once you begin to get into someone's hair. Because we know the hair is the antennas to the crown chakra, to the energetic body, to the essence of the spirit and the soul of the person that you're before. So here we have a very young Marie Laveau, and she's doing hair, a beautician, yes. She already has the energy of a healer, and she knows this very well. And now she's touching your hair. So she's able to do some things with your hair that is magical, coupled by the other things that was going on with her. So word got around in town about, hey, there's this chick, her name is Marie, and oh my goodness, I don't care if you're black, white, mulatto, Creole, I don't care what you are, African, when she touches your hair, magic happens. And so everyone wanted to sit in the chair of the High Priestess. Now, Storybook will tell you that this was a place of gossip, that this was a place where people would just start to spill their guts and just start to talk, and Marie would take account of what they were saying and write these things down and then later go back and use it against them. That's not at all what happened. This was where Marie held her sessions. So when people were sitting in her chair, they also were not just coming to get their hair done, but they were coming to seek the guidance of the High Priestess. It was a reading. It was a session that they were getting. And how beautiful to get a session and get your hair done at the same time. It doesn't get any more magical than that. So this is why they were coming. And Marie would give them spiritual counseling, not her personal opinion. She was giving them spiritual counseling. And so word got around. Word got around not just from the women, but to the men. And they became intrigued. Storybook will tell you that everything that Marie Laveau did was about people cheating on people, getting rid of people who loved them, and, getting back at somebody who hurt you. That's not at all what it was about. Did those situations happen? Of course it did. Because Marie Laveau realized that there was no separation between your spiritual life and your everyday life. And if somehow you were at home and you were troubled by your relationship, that this ultimately is troubling your spirit. And she offered solutions. And she offered solutions in a way that they hadn't experienced. But this was the way of our ancestors coming out of ancient Haiti and Africa and other parts of the world had known for a very long time. Marie was able to channel this energy, and she was able to give it to them so that they could go use things that kitchen, so that they could go find things that would be outside in nature, so that they could go to the grocery store and get the things that they need, so that they could use things that was of the land and of the people, because she recognized the energy that all of these things held inside of them. This is the nature of voodoo, of voodoo. And so when we hear the stories that Marie Laveau was a devout Catholic, this is true. And for those of you who were in the workshop with myself and Brother Bilal, you know the thing that we revealed to you is that voodoo does not care what religion you are. You can be whatever you need to be. Catholic, Baptist, Jewish, Muslim, atheist. It doesn't matter. It is not a system of a religion as many of us have been taught. That's not what it's about at all. Seventh-day Adventist, Jehovah Witness. You could be a Rasta. You could be whatever you are. It doesn't matter. The only thing that is required and was required is to be yourself. That is all that you bring forth with you. And so Marie Laveau would help with these things. She would help individuals to understand about energy, help them understand how to be themselves completely. So many people would come to her, and they wasn't just from New Orleans. They would come from Alabama, New York, California. They would come from all across all places, and even those who were visiting coming in from France and other parts of the world. They all wanted to capture this energy of Marie Laveau. And by the way, we posted on the Remix Radio page a picture of Marie Laveau, which, by the way, she laughs. That's not what she looked like at all. And so they try to take her into this European-looking woman. That's not what she looks like at all. Marie Laveau was a very tall woman, very tall, a very, as they say, statuous woman. In modern day terms, very thick sister, thick in all the right places. And she was very tall. And there was no question whether or not she was from the African diaspora. Very beautiful, very wise, very wise. So now, you got to know that this sister had these amazing hips. And she tells me, Miss Blue, my hips. She said, boy, sisters ain't got nothing on me this day. My hips. Marie Laveau had 15 children. Sister girl, handling her business. And many of us can't have 2 kids. and try to maintain a family, work, and have a business, and try to educate ourselves and follow our dreams. And we overwhelmed. She was getting it in a very big way. But she was truly, truly about service and helping people understand who they were, who they really, really were. So everything that she did it out of service. And she was the Mayat of her day. And so when there were laws on the books that said that if you were a person of color, if you were a nigger, that you didn't have certain rights, Marie Laveau used this ancient wisdom to bring the balance to what was happening in New Orleans and across the Americas at that time. And people feared her because they recognized that with her wisdom, with her knowledge, and with her spiritual system, they could override anything that was happening and that they were doing. So she earned the respect of the people, and that's how she did it. But if you read the history books, they will tell you that she was casting spells based on people paying her, and that's not at all what she was doing. But she was bringing the balance. Marie Laveau single-handedly and with the help of the ancestors was able to stop public, public assassinations. So when they would take someone of African American, take them to the center of town, hang them and kill them. Oh, these things stopped when Marie Laveau came on board because, like I said, she had that Mayat energy and she brought the balance. And they started to fear doing certain things to African Americans and our ancestors, the Native American Indians, because they knew that if they went to Marie Laveau, that they would have a great price to pay for doing it. There was even one story of when they had accused this brother of raping a white woman. And Marie Laveau came out when they were about to execute him. And she had her snake wrapped around her body. And she began to chant. And she began to sing. And she began to dance. And she began to move her body. And everyone stood still. And they just left. And then the people came out and took the young boy down. But Marie did not stop there. She went in front of the white woman's house who lied on the brother, and she began to dance, and she began to chant in the middle of the night. And the woman came running out of the house, fell to her knees, and bowed before Marie Laveau and asked for forgiveness. So she did not force her power on the people. They recognized her power for truth and her power for justice, but amongst all, her power of love for service of the people. So she truly was that queen that was service offering a service to all the people, white, black, Native American, African. It didn't matter your background. She brought the balance. So even when the church, the priests in the church were turning their backs for what they called their code, the Bible, and still allowing these atrocities to happen to African Americans and Native Americans, Marie Laveau went single-handedly up against the priest. And eventually, they bowed down and agreed to step aside and allow Marie Laveau to continue to do her very, very sacred work as a priestess. So she was a healer, a powerful member of society, helping to bring the balance. And she offered herself as service to the people. She also, during her later years, decided that she wasn't going to do, well, I want to tell you this. She wasn't the only voodoo or voodoo person that was happening at her time. There were many others. She wasn't the only one. But there was those. Once she had went to the city, to the council, and petitioned them to give Congo Square to those of melanin people. Because this was the center. Some would say the center and one of the portals or powerful hubs on the earth to pull in ancestral powers. And Marie Laveau went and commissioned the council to allow this to be a place where those of African descent could come and practice and still openly be a part of their spiritual practice, to give praise to their ancestors, connect with their energy in a way that they chose by dancing and singing and celebration and the coming together. So there were so many of the voodoo priest and priestess that wanted to be in charge of Congo Square. And Marie sat back and allowed them to all try to take their rightful place there. And then she walked in. And in the middle of Congo Square, she began to dance. She began to allow her snake to dance with her. And she put the snake down, and the snake began to dance. And those that were there said that their rhythm was almost in sync, in unison together. And that's when all the other priestess knew that the head priestess on Congo Square was Marie Laveau. And she took her rightful place there. And she took it with gratitude, and she took it with love. And she continued to do her work. Despite the trials and tribulations and things that she had encountered in her own life, she continued to press forward. And when it was her time, when she was well up in age, she decided to change her work and to take it in another direction. And she took on the energy, if we could say, the energy of the goddess Aset. And she began to work with those who were incarcerated, those who were doomed. and she began to teach these principles, these things she had learned about her life, and to give them hope where there was no hope. So she would go around and she would visit the prisoners, not just in New Orleans and Louisiana, but she went to Alabama, she went to other states, she went all over the place. And meanwhile, while she was doing this, her daughter had what's called an opening because she favored her mother so much. It wasn't a path that she wanted to take, but it sort of kind of began to consume her. And she began to do the work publicly that her mother was doing, but it was almost kind of like a decoy. So they were focused on her daughter, who looked so much like her. And Marie was able to continue her work going around, and even in some cases, she were freeing some of the brothers and even sisters who were incarcerated. She was able to free them from prison. And she spent much of her work doing that. So she leaves these 3 messages with us today, and I know she has more. And by the way, she has a big sense of humor. But the first one was, we must begin to have healthier thoughts about ourselves. Too many times it's easy for people to come along, Marie says, and knock us off our square. Too many times it's easy for people to come and to take you out of who you are, because these are thoughts that you've already been having about yourself. And so we have to begin to hold a healthy thought pattern of who we are and understand that in a holistic way, not a separation way. You can't be great on Sunday and shit on Monday. It doesn't work that way. So either you're going to stand in your light and stand in your greatness, or you're not. So this is about minding your thoughts of yourself. Number 2, and this one, she says, is very critical. We really need to begin to examine about what we believe and think about other people. Too many times we give our power away. We give our power away because we believe that other people can determine our happiness of who we are, what we become, what we do, and what we be. And that somehow, because somebody else thinks something of us, that makes it law. It ultimately takes away our ability to make good decisions for ourselves. We have to really start to think about what we really believe about other people and how we see that. And are we giving our power away? And it can be something as simple as somebody telling you, it's time for you to go to work, or they change your work schedule, they mix up your work hours. And suddenly your perception now becomes, I have to work late. You don't have to work late. That is your choice. Don't give your power away so easily. And throughout history, we have done this as a people over and over and over again. We keep giving our power away. We will give our power away to someone who flicks us off at the bus stop. We will give our power away to someone who's having a bad day in the grocery store. We will give our power away to someone we know who don't like us and say something to us. So keep your power. And the third thing, and we're being bombarded by this through the media, through social media, and through things that are happening. We must begin to examine what we think about the world, what we ultimately think about the world we live in. Because the truth of the matter is, the world does not owe you anything. And we sometimes approach it as though the world owes us something. And if we continue to do good work, the world will give us back good work. And that's not true. The world can sometimes be a very unfair place. If we allow it. Life is not fair, but the world can be what we make it. But if we make it a place that we feel owes us something, you will never get anything. So we must examine what we think about the world. It doesn't owe you anything. And those are the 3 messages from Queen Marie Laveau. Keep healthy thoughts about yourself. Examine what you believe about other people. Examine it, whether it be that you somehow feel that their life is impacting yours, or you feel somehow that you're impacting theirs. It goes both ways. And thoughts of jealousy, envy, hatefulness, resentfulness, all of these things is giving your power away. And then we must examine what we really think about the world and stop living from a place where we feel life owes us something, because it does not. Your world is what you make it. So stop living in another world and come into your world. They say in Voodoo that 10 is a very unlucky number. And Marie laughs at that. She said 10 is a powerful number. She was born on the 10th day. So she truly is one of our great saints. She's one of our spirit guides. that we can begin to reach out and we can begin to ask for assistance and help with. She's not one to fear. She's here for the love of the people. And you guys know how I feel about that. The only thing that's real is love. So that's the message from our dear queen. Our dear queen, Queen Marie Laveau. Ashe. And she definitely is still with us. So I wanted to share that message with you guys, and super excited about that. And yeah.